Civic Interest here on 101.7 WTYE. Apologize for the little technical snafu this morning. Joined by State Representative Roger Eddy and State Senator Dale Ryder. How are you two doing this morning?
Good, Chris. How are you this morning?
Good.
Very good, Chris. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, too. Well, a couple of big issues that we're going to talk about this morning, and want to start off talking a little bit about property taxes and specifically about the Conservation Stewardship Program. There have been some questions about that, and the clock is ticking on that.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important that people understand that this law will assist wooded landowners tremendously, but they have to act pretty quickly to take advantage of it so that the benefits can be applied for the 2008 assessment year. And what they really need to do is to apply for this stewardship program through the Department of Natural Resources. Basically, if less than 51% of a tract of land, a wooded land tract, is used for agricultural purposes, the land will be reassessed as residential, or could be reassessed as residential starting January 1st. If it's 51% or more agricultural, this isn't something you need to apply for because you'll retain the agricultural exemption. But if you have one of those 5 or greater residences, maybe to 15, 20 acres, you're going to be having that entire tract possibly reassessed as all residential. And to avoid that, it's important that you apply for the stewardship program and get a lesser assessment.
Obviously, Chris, this is critical for many constituents here in East Central and Southeastern Illinois. Beginning 18 months, 2 years ago, Roger and I and a lot of other lawmakers who represent downstate Illinois began to hear concerns about the fact that they were getting notices from their local supervisor of assessments offices that their property taxes could be rising and rising dramatically. That was a result of an edict that was being sent down from the Department of Revenue in Springfield. We were able to get the Department of Revenue to hold off on directing the locals to reclassify these properties and therefore increase the property taxes, and then put together a task force. The task force came up with this recommendation, which was Senate Bill 17, which passed the General Assembly overwhelmingly and became law. It's a nice sign that the process works when constituents reach out to elected officials like Roger and I and many others and say, hey, we've got an issue here and it needs to be dealt with, and it was dealt with. But as Roger's pointed out, now's the time for people, if they haven't already, to move forward on this and make sure they have their applications in.
Explain a little bit about exactly how the program works.
Well, for now, the Department of Natural Resources has established emergency rules, and those rules do allow for the application for the tract to become the purpose or the main reason for the assessment not to be raised. So really, you don't have to have the management plan in place by a certified forester at this point, but you do have to make application with the Department of Natural Resources. And it's as simple as going online, www.dnr.state.il.us, and then on the left-hand side, under What's New, there'll be a link to the stewardship program. Follow those links and you'll come to an application that needs to be filled out. It can be actually submitted online, or you can print it out and submit it separately. After you've done that, I would suggest also sending a copy of that to the assessor's office to make sure and let them know that you've applied with DNR. And as rules continue on this, from the emergency rules to the final rules, there may be some changes in this, but I think the important thing for now is that people begin the process, because it'll take a little bit of time. It's not a hard application. The rules, by the way, are also on that site, so you can read through the rules and the instructions for the application. I think the most important point is, a lot of folks just felt like the law took care of everything and that this assessment wouldn't happen, but it still could happen. I think assessors are maybe going to move differently on this in different counties, and maybe some assessors aren't going to move real quick because they're going to wait for the final rules too. But I wouldn't take the chance. I'd start the process.
One last point I think that's critical on this, Chris, is that if you have this type of property that falls under this, and I think it's a minimum of, is it a 5-acre tract? that if you do not have your land placed into an approved conservation program, you're still going to get some protection on your property taxes. It's my recollection that the assessment will be frozen at the 2006 level. The problem is, for some people, that won't provide much protection, and for everyone else, even if it provides you with significant protection now from a dramatic increase in your property taxes, that protection will be lost once the property is transferred, whether it's sold or whether it's passed on because someone passed away or whatever the reason might be. If the land is in an approved conservation program, you won't see that protection disappear once the land is transferred. So that's the real value in being in one of these programs.
Let me say one other thing too, because I forget, and really it applies in this situation. A lot of folks don't have good internet access in rural areas, and maybe some of those same people who need this the most don't have the internet to download and get these forms. Please don't hesitate to contact my office. I can get a blank application to you. I think a lot of the assessor's offices will have blank applications. I can get the rules printed off, send those to folks. My office, I give the phone number for my office in Hudsonville. It's 618-563-4128. We'll be in and out over the holidays. Just leave a message with an address, whatever you need that you can't get downloaded. We want to make sure that people have access to it. So please don't hesitate to call us too.
Now the clock's ticking on this, about 10 days.
Right.
And obviously the same stands true for our office, and we have a toll-free 1-888-235-6033.
All right. Anything else you would like to talk about with the conservation program?
Nope. Just want to make sure people understand how important it is to actually act on this. And oftentimes, we say, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse, but I think it's a pretty good one in this case because there's not been a lot of real advance notice for people, and we want to try and make sure as many people get involved in this as possible.
Well, I know there are a bunch of other property tax related issues coming up as well.
Well, the General Assembly passed some relief for property tax owners, especially veterans, seniors, and disabled this year. Returning veteran homestead exemption creates a one-time $5,000 homestead exemption for tax year 07, and thereafter for veterans returning home. Now, it's important also that folks understand they need to get a hold of the assessor's office and apply for that exemption. If you're a disabled veteran, it creates that $5,000 homestead exemption and a $2,500 homestead exemption for disabled, and so that it adds to it. And again, you have to apply for that. There are senior citizen exemptions that are increased, and also the homeowners exemption raises from $5,500 to $5,500 in tax year 08 and $6,000 in tax year 09, and there are additional